Hey guys, thank you for being here for another missing video. If you're new to my channel, hi, my name is Casey and I post a new video every week on a missing person whose story needs more exposure, and today's video is on an absolutely beautiful 16-year-old girl named Monica Carrasco. Monica Cassandra Carrasco was born to parents Catherine and Ramon Carrasco on December the 13th of 1986. She was a happy baby who was always smiling, which produced these cute little dimples on her cheeks. She was a Christian and very outgoing. As a little girl in church at age 6, when other kids were too shy to stand up in front of everyone, she would get right up there in front of everyone and in front of the entire congregation at church and read Bible verses to them with no problem at all. She was compassionate and kind. She always wanted to help others, and she was always the first to volunteer if help was needed. She was well liked and had even earned the nickname Happy Happy from her friends at school because she always had a smile on her face and a positive attitude. She loved animals, and when she was little, she wanted to grow up to be a veterinarian. Monica was a good and disciplined student. She loved science, and as she got older, she dreamed of going to an Ivy League school like Harvard. She thought about becoming a lawyer or maybe even working for NASA. She played basketball at Alpine High School where she was a junior. She enjoyed oil painting, music, baking homemade bread, and jogging. She played the alto saxophone and liked going to libraries and bookstores with her mother. She was also very much into church and doing Bible studies. This beautiful young girl who seemed to have a lot going for her and a positive outlook on life would suffer heartbreak though, and it would change her. In November of 2000, when Monica was just 13 years old, her father, Ramon, who was already battling bone cancer, suffered a heart attack and passed away. Monica was understandably devastated, and she had a very hard time coping with the loss. It has been said, time heals all wounds. I do not agree. The wounds remain. In time, the mind, protecting its sanity, covers them with scar tissue and the pain lessens, but it is never gone. That is a quote from Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy. During the following 3 years after her father died, Monica's pain did not lessen. Monica grew depressed and stopped eating. By 2003, the depression and now anorexia had taken over. Monica had lost over 50 pounds very quickly, and so her worried mother had her hospitalized. Monica was not the least bit happy about being put into treatment. I guess she was pretty mad at her mom for taking that step. So when she was released from the hospital, she chose to go stay with her Aunt Velma and her Uncle Abel and her twin cousins who lived on Rural County Road 323, only about 4 miles east of Balmorhea. On Wednesday, October the 1st of 2003, Monica had a pretty typical day as far as I could find. I'm not sure if she went to school that day, but she had attended a prayer service in the early evening and then afterwards returned to her aunt and uncle's home. According to statements from the cousins, Monica went to bed early, but later woke up and played video games with them for a while. But around 11 p.m., she returned to her room to go back to sleep. Around 1:30 a.m., the cousins checked on Monica and saw her asleep in her bed. Everything seemed fine. But at 6 a.m. the following morning, when Aunt Velma went into Monica's room to wake her, Monica wasn't there. All of the stuff she had brought with her to the aunt and uncle's home, her purse, clothing, shoes, a suitcase, everything was still in the room. The only thing that appeared to be missing was her Bible, which her mother, Kathy, had recently given to her. There were no signs of a struggle, nothing thrown about, out of place, or broken. There was a door in Monica's bedroom that led outside, and it was found to be unlocked, but there were no signs someone had forced it open or tried to bust the lock. I could not find a listed time that Monica was officially reported missing. Velma and Abel, the aunt and uncle, stated that at first they thought Monica woke up early and went for a run, and that's why she wasn't in her room, until they noticed that her running shoes were still there at the house. Monica liked to go jogging, but I'm not sure if it was common for her to go that early, and also not tell anyone that she was leaving. Her mother called the home that morning around 9:30 a.m. to check in and see how Monica was doing, and that's when the aunt informed her that Monica was missing and that they couldn't find her. Monica's mother, Kathy, was at work in Marfa, Texas at this time, and she left work right away to come search for her daughter. Now, it's unclear to me why Aunt Velma didn't call Kathy right away to let her know Monica was missing. Maybe Kathy just happened to call around the time Velma and Abel realized she probably hadn't gone for that run. I'm not sure, but by the time Kathy reached the house, police were already searching Monica's bedroom. The search of her room did not reveal much, if anything. There was no evidence that anyone had been in the room with Monica, no signs of a fight or foul play, and nothing indicating Monica had packed a bag or intended to leave and never return. It appeared she had left still wearing her nightgown, with no shoes on her feet and only carrying her Bible. The aunt and uncle's home and property were searched, as well as the surrounding area. Many different agencies and people came together to aid in the search for Monica. The Reeves County Sheriff's Office, Balmorhea Volunteer Fire Department, Border Patrol, Texas Rangers, Balmorhea State Park employees, and numerous volunteers searched a 10-mile radius around the home. They did aerial searches by helicopter, volunteers were on horses and ATVs, as well as many others searching on foot. They searched around nearby Balmorhea Lake, which was only a couple of miles from the aunt and uncle's home. Cadaver dogs were brought out as well, but nothing was found. Law enforcement received hundreds of tips, but none of them panned out to anything. They even brought in a psychic who gave them several locations on where Monica could be, but none of these leads amounted to anything either. There are a lot of different theories in Monica's disappearance. One is that she left on her own voluntarily. The area around the home was very rocky, with a lot of thorns and cacti. This is not terrain you walk around in barefoot. It's gonna hurt the bottoms of your feet, so I find it odd that she left with no shoes on if she was running away. Now, even if Monica was upset with her mother, they still had a relationship. They loved each other and were working through their issues. In fact, the day before Monica disappeared, she and her mother had seen each other and they had exchanged I love yous and held hands and prayed together. Kathy doesn't believe her daughter would have run away. Another theory is that perhaps Monica could have met someone online, maybe in a chat room, and they were able to groom her and succeed in luring her out. Interstate 10 isn't far from where she was staying. If she met someone somewhere close, or if someone picked her up at the house, it wouldn't take them long to hit I-10 and be gone. Monica was very religious and very much into her Bible studies. Could someone have maybe lured her out that way? Did someone from the prayer service she had attended earlier that day make plans to meet her? Both are possibilities, but if she was going to meet someone, teenage girls are usually pretty particular about their appearance. Wouldn't she have changed out of her nightgown? And again with the shoes. Why would you go meet someone barefoot? Police didn't find any evidence of her having met someone over the internet though, or if they did, they haven't released that information. And I'm unsure if they questioned anyone she knew from church. Houston, Texas is only about an 8-hour drive from Balmorhea, and Houston is the nation's #1 worst city for human trafficking. According to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, Texas itself is the nation's #2 worst state for trafficking. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services estimates that 50,000 people from various countries are trafficked into Texas every year, and many other victims are U.S. citizens. Houston and Balmorhea are linked by Interstate 10, which, like I said before, is very near her home on County Road 323. It's only about 3 miles away, if I'm remembering correctly. So Monica being lured into human trafficking is also a possibility. Some think Monica left on her own and either succumbed to the elements or took her own life due to everything she was struggling with. It is believed that the medication she was taking for depression could have caused her to become confused, her judgment altered, and Perhaps she wandered outside. The average low temperature for Balmorhea, Texas in October is around 49 degrees Fahrenheit, so it probably would have been chilly that night. Monica only had on a nightgown, and believe it or not, you can suffer from hypothermia in temperatures above freezing but below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, especially if you are wet, whether it be from sweat, snow, rain, and wind can also increase your chances. Now, Monica was very, very thin at this time. She didn't have a lot of meat on her bones. Fat acts as an insulator to the body's core, so people with a lower BMI, body mass index, are more susceptible to hypothermia. But if Monica did leave on her own, then succumb to the elements, it's likely her body would have been found. Same if she had committed suicide. I feel like searchers or cadaver dogs would have found her remains. There are some that believe someone in her family could have had something to do with her disappearance. Her aunt and uncle were given polygraph tests, and while her aunt passed, her uncle did not. Now, I personally don't put a lot of stock in polygraph tests. A person telling the truth may be nervous when answering questions, and a dishonest person may be calm and collected simply because they're a good liar. There's a reason that polygraph tests are not often admissible in court. If something happened to Monica in that house, they did it without waking anyone else and without leaving any clues behind. Law enforcement has not found any evidence that family members were involved. Now, back in May of 2003, 5 months before Monica vanished, a bus driver was harassing her, and it got so bad that Monica refused to ride the bus to school anymore. She didn't file a report about the harassment to police at the time it happened, though. The bus driver was checked into, he was interviewed by law enforcement, and he was ruled out as having any involvement in her disappearance. This is just my personal opinion, but if Monica didn't report the bus driver, maybe she wouldn't have reported a family member or anyone else that could have also been harassing her. Since she had her Bible with her, perhaps she went outside to pray or read. Did someone see her out there and snatch her up without causing much noise or a ruckus? There isn't much around this area, as you can see. It's very much in the country, and there aren't a lot of homes on this road. The ones that are appear to be pretty far apart, so the odds of her being outside and someone just happened to be nearby and decided to take her seem unlikely to me. I have seen a lot of people comment online in forums and stuff that they think it's weird that her cousins checked on her at 1:30 a.m. Maybe it's just me, but I don't find this strange at all. Monica had been through a lot, was dealing with a ton mentally, so they were probably concerned, and it may have been that they were just passing by her room on their way to bed, peeked in, happened to see her lying on her bed. I check on my kids all the time. Even my oldest, who is 20, when she's home from college, I still peek in to make sure she's okay if I get up throughout the night. I don't know exactly why or how the cousins looked in on Monica, but I just don't think it's that odd of a thing for them to do. What do you guys think? I do wonder, though, if Monica was actually in her bed when they looked in, or if it just looked like she was. I don't know. The only sighting that I could find reported, and it wasn't even like a confirmed sighting, was a couple reported seeing a girl that they thought was Monica on June the 30th of 2004 at a rest stop. I think it was rest stop 7 in Indianapolis, Indiana on Highway 70. They said she left with an older man in an 18-wheeler, and like I said, that sighting was never confirmed, but it was something that I did read. Monica was a sweet, well-liked girl who got along with everyone and didn't have any known enemies, or at least none that have been reported. If she was taken by someone, who was it? If she left willingly on her own, why did she do it? Was that really Monica that the couple saw at the rest stop in Indiana? If she is out there somewhere, why hasn't she contacted anyone? Did she really leave with the intent to never see her family again? Let me know what you all think in the comments. I love reading your theories, and I'm super interested to see what you all think about it. I usually have my mind set on what I think happened, but with this case, I really don't have a clue. It's like she just walked outside and poof, vanished. But we know that doesn't happen. In 2003, Monica was 5 foot 5 inches tall and 100 to 116 pounds. She has brown eyes, and at the time of her disappearance, her hair was dark brown with red streaks in it. She has dimples in both cheeks, a chickenpox scar on her forehead near her hairline, a small light-colored mole on her left cheek, and her ears are pierced. She was last seen wearing a beige nightgown, and she had a large black or white Bible with her. Monica would now be 34 years old. In August of 2004, the 18-Wheel Angels helped to get Monica's name and picture out there. I have mentioned the 18-Wheel Angels in at least one of my previous videos, but in case you don't know what that is, the 18-Wheel Angels are a group of truck drivers or people traveling through different states that place missing posters in areas they are traveling to, just trying to help spread the word and get their faces out there. In the spring of 2015, 12 years after Monica disappeared, the Reeves County Sheriff's Office reopened her case, hoping to shed new light and bring closure to the family. But here we are, almost 6 years later of them reopening it, and still nothing. Monica has not been seen since that night in 2003, over 17 years ago. Her mother, Kathy, continues to search for her daughter, and she is not giving up. She has made a website with info on Monica and her disappearance, missingmonica.com. I will put the link in the description box. If you have any information on Monica's whereabouts or what happened to her, please contact the Reeves County Sheriff's Office at 432-445-4901. There is a $10,000 reward for Monica's safe return. You may also submit tips online anonymously. That link will be in the description box. I say this in just about every video, but please don't assume that what you may know is insignificant. Any information you have could be extremely important to solving this. Hopefully this video will reach someone that knows something. It would be wonderful if Monica, if her family could get answers after all these years of not knowing. As always, I mean no harm in doing these videos. I am simply trying to spread awareness on the lesser known missing person cases. And if you would like to support me, I would appreciate it if you would give this video a like, hit that subscribe button, and also check out my entire missing playlist, as every case I cover needs more attention. Thank you all so much for being here, and I will see you next week. Bye, guys.